people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. A second look at Elif Turhan's decision to sign an extension with Matchroom and continue boxing under that promotional banner. Eddie Hearn has made it clear he wants to match Elif Turhan against Caroline Dubois, and I know that Elif already has a fight coming up against Australia's own Taylor Jensen on the undercard of Murtazalia versus Kelly at the end of this month. So the conversation that we're about to have relies on the presupposition that Elif Turhan is going to win that fight and stay IBF champion, so that if she does, Eddie wants to put her in the ring with Caroline. I don't think she's on Caroline's radar, or at least Caroline is pretending that she isn't. But she is one of the 4 champions in the lightweight division right now. By now, we all know that Caroline is a very picky eater. Before Elif Turhan was IBF champion, Beatrice Ferreira was IBF champion. And Caroline did everything in her power to put distance between her and that fight. So why would it be any different with Elif Turhan? Why is Eddie beating a dead horse? He must view Caroline Dubois as a better launch pad for a boxer's career than, say, Terry Harper or Stephanie Hahn. He views Caroline as sort of the mountaintop at 135. That's what I think. That's why he didn't mention the other champions at the weight. Elif Turhan could easily knock them out just as much as he thinks she can knock Caroline out. Perhaps he doesn't think it would be as much of a statement, though, if she knocked out Terry Harper, because Terry's been knocked out 2 times already. Perhaps he doesn't view it as much of a statement if she fought Stephanie Hahn, because not that many people know Stephanie Hahn.
I want to know Stephanie Hahn.
Why?
She's fucking hot.
I'm pretty sure that Eddie Hearn would be happy to land any one of those other fights for his fighter, for his champion, though underneath it all, I don't think it would send the same message.
That is, I don't think he thinks it would send the same message. So he's calling out Caroline by name. He wants her. She doesn't want this.
But is Elif Turhan actually a threat to Caroline Dubois, who is by and large the more well-schooled boxer of the two? You can see that almost immediately.
Yeah, so was Beatrice up until Elif knocked her out. Elif Turhan is a threat to Caroline for the same reason she was a threat to Beatrice. It's because she doesn't care about your medal. She doesn't care about your amateur background. She doesn't care who you think you are or your delusions of grandeur, how much you might aggrandize yourself. When the bell rings, she's gonna go for it. She's gonna go for the jugular, whether you're Beatrice Ferreira or Caroline Dubois. And that...
It's the power of belief.
She's an old school fighter, and you can see that on her, that trademark stoicism from Elif Turhan.
Yes.
You know, a lot of fighters these days, when they're in over their head against someone who's supposed to be hot to trot, king or queen shit, they sort of make a decision, an agreement within themselves that they're going to try their best.
But they don't really think they're going to win, and they fight that way.
They sort of try to do what they try to do, but mentally, they've already checked out. They checked out before the fight started, and Elif isn't like that. I'm not even telling you that I think Elif Turhan would beat Caroline Dubois. I'm telling you that Elif thinks she would beat Caroline Dubois, and she's going to fight on that premise, on that presupposition. That's what's going to be in the punches, whether they land or they don't.
I saw her taking those swipes at Beatrice Ferreira, putting a whole goddamn kitchen sink on those punches, all the way from the parking lots. No wonder they were so damaging. And that is what she would do with Caroline, to where punch for punch, I think Elif Turhan packs a bigger punch than Caroline Dubois. Caroline's got more bells and whistles and more subtleties to her game, but power, raw power, that goes to the Golden Turk. I don't expect Caroline to oblige her. I expect Caroline to give her the cold shoulder like she gave Beatrice the cold shoulder, because as stated, Caroline is a picky eater, and that's proven over time. Right now, she's made it her mission to pursue Terry Harper.
At least momentarily, she must have been breathing a sigh of relief when she heard that Beatrice had lost her IBF title, though that reprieve was only momentary because now Elif is on your trail. Elif wants to fight you.
And the entire time that Matchroom is finding fighters for this champion to fight, for this champion to pounce on and stop, they're going to be mentioning your name. They want you. You specifically.
So you're going to have some girl out here with a belt of her own throwing your name around, and you're going to what? You're going to do nothing?
Now it's time for another installment of what is fast becoming the most popular segment here on this channel, Ring IQ Hate Mail. Guy who goes by the name Truth Teller Max didn't like my recent coverage of what's supposed to be Haney versus Crocker, and how Eddie Hearn, given the hefty price tag, doesn't really want to make it. He said, "Why do you keep acting like Devin isn't one of the most popular boxers currently?"
Because he's not.
Just because a bunch of social rejects and dorks talk about you online doesn't mean you're popular in terms of marquee value, in terms of gate receipts, in terms of pay-per-view buys. Devin Haney has headlined how many? 3 pay-per-views? None of which did big numbers. Not the Lomachenko fight, not the Regis Prograis fight, not even the Ryan Garcia fight. And I actually thought that was going to be a big one.
It wasn't.
And that's not hearsay and conjecture either. In Oscar De La Hoya's own words, the pay-per-view underperformed. It didn't do as much as they thought it was going to do. And I feel so inclined to believe him because he's the one who promoted it. If he had something to brag about, he'd be bragging about it. So if he says it didn't do that much, I don't think it did that much.
And who headlined it?
Ryan and Devin. Devin, who you're trying to tell me is so fucking popular, yeah, maybe he's popular online, where everything is free and you don't have to pay anything.
Yeah, a lot of people popular online. Rolly's popular online.
But if that online popularity don't translate into real dollars in the real world, it ain't worth much. Truth Teller Max continued, "You'll say this about Devin, but then won't mention anything about Matthias's event being a complete flop."
What the fuck is this dickhead talking about? That's all I've been saying about Matthias's fight. On repeat, in video after video after video in the build-up, that it should not be a pay-per-view, that the tickets aren't selling, that they should have just let Matchroom do it. What rock were you living under when I said that repeatedly?
Is that supposed to redeem Devin? That Matthias's pay-per-view isn't selling, that Matthias isn't a big draw. Well, neither is Devin. Let's make one thing clear, that it's not that Eddie Hearn doesn't want to do the fight, it's that he doesn't want to do the fight at Devin's price.
That's the problem.
That Devin Haney has been overpaid for many years now in dollar amounts that do not accurately reflect his drawing power. And now that he's not with Matchroom anymore, and they don't have any responsibility to make fights for him, they're not going to bleed red ink to feed his ego, to feed his bank account, and I don't blame them.
If you're that fucking reliant on Matchroom to get you fights, then why didn't you re-sign with them? Why did you choose free agency if you need so much assistance from them?
Is he supposed to be a promoter of some kind?
I saw a back and forth exchange on Twitter that perfectly encapsulates the point I'm trying to make. Everything Boxing asked, has DHP made an offer to Lewis Crocker for a unification bout? If he wants the fight, perhaps try and make it yourself. To which Benji, a big Devin Haney fan, said he's a free agent. It's not how it works. It would be a Matchroom show.
But why? Why does it have to be a Matchroom show? Why does Matchroom have to bear all the risk of putting on the show if Devin is supposed to be a promoter? It's the question that Book Sale Pats asked. So isn't he a promoter then? So you're saying Haney Promotions can't put on a show, to which Everything Boxing followed up, exactly. Matchroom isn't the only promoter in this equation. They've shown that they have no problem sending their fighters to other promoters' shows. So where's the offer from the A-Side Fighters promoter?
To which Benji responded, DHP has no broadcast deal with DAZN, and Matchroom does.
Yeah, they got a deal with DAZN, but they don't have a deal with Devin. So if Devin wants to fight that bad, you better go get turkey, or you better pay for it yourself. Otherwise, no dice.
Book Sale Pats responded by saying Matthias's promoter is doing the Dalton Smith fight tomorrow with no broadcast partner. If Haney is as big as he thinks, then he could do the same. But like most other fighters, he won't want to take the risk.
Exactly.
For all the money that he thinks he's worth, that Matchroom should have to kick out for him and they don't even promote him, why doesn't he just put up his own money? Stake your own money on the show, since you think you're worth it.
He knows he's not.
Devin Haney has made enough in career earnings from boxing that he could finance his own show if he wanted to. The reason he doesn't is because he knows it's a gamble. He knows you put up all that money to do that show, you may not get it back. So you want someone else to take the risk. No strings attached.
Why the fuck would they do that?
Why?
See, Matchroom might feel so inclined to take on such a risk if you made a commitment to them, but you didn't. So why the fuck would they make a commitment to you?
It's not that they don't want to do the fight. It's that they don't want to do it at Devin's price for the money that Devin is looking for. They're not going to bleed red ink over what is not their fighter. If Turkey wants to do the fight, let Turkey do the fight.
But they ain't gonna bust the budget for a fighter they have no contractual obligation to, no commitment to. Really, it's common sense, but somebody should tell Truth Teller Max. Another one of these bleeding hearts playing the violin for a fighter in his bank account, just to not buy that same fighter's fight when they bill it as a pay-per-view.
Don't you fucking understand that these fighters' inflated financial demands are driving the cost of everything up to where everything's a pay-per-view now?
Well, that doesn't bother him because he doesn't spend any money on pay-per-views. All the boxing content he takes in, he likely steals, so it's inconsequential to him.
But not inconsequential to us because we're not digital shoplifters. We actually pay for the content we take in, so that when a Devin Haney starts asking for the moon and the stars, we know what that means. Another pay-per-view. But you versus Lewis Crocker, that ain't box office.
It's not pay-per-view worthy. Even if today's standards for a pay-per-view are exceptionally low, lower than they've ever been, the bottom line is I'm not down to pay $60, $75, or $80 to see you versus that guy.
No fucking way. That's not a hot ticket on any side of the Atlantic Ocean. It's not a hot ticket in the United Kingdom. It's not a hot ticket in the US.
But for the money you're looking for, the only way for them to put it on is to put it on as a pay-per-view, and I am vehemently against that to the point where I can live without Haney versus Crocker. I like Botto versus Crocker more anyway.
The guy they just ordered Lewis to fight.
And the best part, Liam Botto versus Lewis Crocker makes for a more entertaining fight that in all likelihood would not be billed as a pay-per-view. So who needs Devin? Who needs DHP? What I really can't stand about these guys is they think they're gaming the system. They're trying to pull one over on the promoters. They're even trying to pull one over on the fans.
I'm supposed to help you make off like a bandit because of how fucking great you are? You're boring.
Fights are boring. And when you're not in boring fights, you're doing your best impersonation of Floyd Mayweather.
You violate, I'ma demonstrate.
So fucking original. Gee, I haven't heard that one before. What kind of grown fucking man models his entire personality around another grown man's personality?
After another man's persona.
So here's the truth, Truth Teller Max. It's not even that Eddie is against making the fight. He just doesn't want to make it at Devin's price. Devin being a promoter, why doesn't Devin just promote it himself? Pay for it himself?
Because he knows he isn't good for the money. He knows what he's asking for. He isn't worth it.
He's just mad, and you're just mad that Eddie Hearn knows that too. Eddie knows Devin isn't worth it. Not the kind of money he wants. You better go get Turkey. Finally, in men's heavyweight news, former champion Deontay Wilder doesn't believe he's lost a step. I'm in my prime. Deontay Wilder hasn't looked as explosive and violent as he once did. At 40, he looks past his best. But he doesn't believe that's true. I'm in my prime now, Wilder told Najee on Cigar Talk. Wilder still sports that menacing look, yet that mind-numbing power that he once had hasn't showed up when he needed it the most recently. In 4 of his last 6, the former WBC heavyweight champion has come up woefully short. His last few appearances have been particularly dreadful. Even the fight that he won against Tyrell Herndon in Wichita, Kansas, lacked the suddenness and explosivity that got him some accord. Before that, Joseph Parker won nearly every round against Wilder in December of 2023. Roughly 6 months later, Zhilei Chang took his pound of flesh, stopping Wilder in the 5th. Eventually, the Alabama Slammer got back on track against Tyrell Herndon, but even with Wilder being viewed as a gigantic favorite, he didn't exactly blow him out of the water. Wilder scored 2 knockdowns before knocking out Herndon in the 7th on June 27th. Now Wilder is in the middle of negotiating a matchup with Ring, IBF, WBA, and WBC champion Oleksandr Usyk. The Ukrainian has seemed adamant about facing Wilder, who was last champion in 2021 in the first half of 2026. Wilder figures to be a massive underdog, but he believes his late start in the sport has helped preserve him despite his advanced age. I started boxing very late, he said. I started at 21. 3 of his 4 losses have come by stoppage, the most recent in 2024. Wilder might have a point about getting off to a late start in the sport, that he did not accumulate as much wear and tear in the amateurs as some others might have.
That is, he might have had a point, if not for his own admission some years ago, that he's had over 7 surgeries to the same arm.
Folks, it was nearly 10 years ago, in 2018, when Wilder made the admission that up until that point, he had approximately 7 surgeries to the same arm. That was 8 years ago. And what if I told you that 8 years later, he's had more surgical procedures done to that same arm, to his shoulder? He's had other issues, so that you can't now make the assertion that you are well preserved when you've had to go under the knife that many times. That doesn't make sense.
And what years those knockout losses might have shaved off of your career. If he hadn't gotten knocked out up until this point, I could see. But he's been stopped by Fury 2 times, and stopped again even more violently by Zhilei Zhang. These were sustained beatings, where Wilder got hit a lot.
Getting hit that much takes years off of your career, so Wilder might have had a point about being well preserved because he got off to a late start in the sport, but once he started getting his ass kicked.
He wasn't well preserved anymore. He's not well preserved now. It's delusional to think that he's still in his prime.
To some degree, you have to be a professional boxer.
At any stage.
Prospect level, contender level, champion level, or in this instance, gatekeeper level, journeyman level, because that's what Wilder is in today's boxing landscape. A familiar name and familiar face for up-and-comers to pounce on.
Now, Usyk is no up-and-comer. By now, it's established that Usyk is the best in show. He has been throughout. Usyk is the man to beat at heavyweight. So for me, him fighting Wilder at this stage in Wilder's career is overkill. This shouldn't be what keeps you in the sport, fighting a guy like this.
I would rather see Usyk bow out on top, retire a champion like Terence Crawford just did. For me, he completed boxing, and there's nothing left to do, nothing left to prove, but so long as you stick around.
He said he's got 2 or 3 more left in him. That would include Wilder.
You're tempting fate. And in boxing, it's better to leave early than wait until it's too late, losing needlessly to somebody you could have beat in your prime, but you wanted to push the envelope.
I don't think that's somebody's Wilder. I think if they make that fight between Usyk and Wilder in the spring, here in the United States, Usyk is going to play with him, and then he's going to finish him.
It's not Wilder that he needs to be concerned about, and I do think he's going to knock out Deontay Wilder. I just don't see a reason for him to keep fighting after that. You've made money, more than enough money to retire on. You've got more than enough legacy.
Made history.
There's no real reason to stick around, and I hope that after he does what he does with Wilder, he bows out. Bow out gracefully. Bow out a champion.